facing head-on the emotions beneath the surface as we bridge from an old world of confusion and lack to a beautiful new world of freedom, abundance, and love with straightforward truth and inspired hope is what you'll find on the Charla Anderson Show. Collector and connector of fascinating people. And everyone is fascinating. Here's your host, Charla Anderson.
Well, good, beautiful day, beautiful, beautiful souls. This is Charla Anderson, Charla Anderson Show, collector and connector of fascinating people, and everyone is fascinating, especially you. So excited to have in person in my own house, my really special friend, Carlene McCaughey, and we're going to have a fun conversation today. But first, we're going to do my breathing exercise. So we're going to go 22 seconds of a mini vacation, and we're going to have so much fun getting grounded, right? We're going to breathe in calm for 7 seconds. We're going to hold for 4 and breathe out gratitude. So here we go. Let's breathe in some calm. Hold. Release. Relax. Please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Woo.
I don't think I held it in enough.
Well, if we did that multiple times a day, put this little thing down and do this thing multiple times a day, I think society would be better, because then we would have this grounding, a little bit, be still and know, hear the still small voice, right?
Right.
So
Mindful healing.
Mindful healing, exactly. So we are, Carlene lives in California now. She used to live out here. We became friends, 2011, I think?
So. Yeah, you were on another show.
That's right. And we just kind of hit it off, and have magical things happen ever since. Every time together, magical things. See what it's
with the berry chicken.
I figure we'll talk about that, because I was witness to miracles. Okay. So this girl's got gifts. And so we're going to just let you get to know her. And I hope that we will bless you with this episode, on the Win-Win Women Network and streaming all over the place. So Carlene.
Yes.
Let's hear who you are in this world. And then we'll talk about what you do.
Well, who am I? I am a human being that loves people, loves nature. I look at things in my life that others consider painful, and I find great purpose. That's anytime something happens to me, I'm like, okay, what's this? Who am I going to connect to?
What's I'm going to learn?
What am I going to learn from this? Who am I going to connect to? This is going to be an amazing journey. Doesn't mean that it's not a struggle, but it just means that I know there's a big picture that I'm able to see.
The perspective.
Yeah.
It's a perspective that is powerful when you accept where you are.
Yeah. When you can't, there's my late husband, Patrick. We were married almost 22 years, and he passed from younger onset Alzheimer's, and it's a rare form that strikes the young. So he's forever 59. And when you're faced with a disease like that, where there's no cure, there's no explanation, it's been around since 1906, discovered in the elder in 1970, but in 1906 in a 52-year-old woman from Germany. And you can't change this. There was no amount of anything that I could do that seemed to be able to change it. So I couldn't change my circumstances. So I had to change my perspective. And that's what I did. And that's what I do each time I'm faced with a challenge that my circumstances cannot change. I seek with all my heart a change in my perspective.
And I've witnessed it firsthand multiple times. You were raised in California, you ran Louisiana, and now you're back in California. You have a little farm out in East Texas, which brought, I told that whole story last week in my show when I was talking about.
Yeah, the farm out in Texas. One of the reasons I'm here, my son's getting married, and I'm excited for that. He's getting married this Friday, but I have a farm that's still out there. And it was placed on my heart to make it a healing retreat for caregivers that walked what I had walked. And I run a support group on Facebook, and it's very specific. It's for females caring for their significant other with younger onset Alzheimer's. It's very specific. And there's almost 2,000 women in there now, which is unreal, right?
Yeah.
From Australia, I mean, all over the world. And we're the only group like this. And it was placed on my heart that we needed some space to heal while we're walking this journey. And one of the things I kept saying, when I started the support group, I started it because there was nothing out there. I couldn't relate to those that had parents going through it with elder, because this was my husband. I first tried to get him diagnosed when he was in his 40s and was actually laughed at. And it was placed on my heart. I like to call it the gift of knowing, but I've learned in life that when you speak and you live your life authentic at all times, you just receive the messages and the knowledge that you need. That's how it's worked for me. And there's no other explanation for it. But it was based on my heart to, when we were married, just 2 years, that he would have Alzheimer's. Did not know how crazy I actually sounded, because I didn't realize that younger onset was extremely rare, less than 3%. He doesn't have any genetic components to it whatsoever. And I went so far as educating myself, was vice president of a nonprofit to help people with it, but it was all for the elder. But I knew it was placed on my heart. So when things are placed on my heart like that, the visions that I get, I act on them. And with purpose intent, I made sure that for the next 18 years that we would be able to be debt-free when this was over with. We would be able, I set up the things that I knew I had to set up, the life insurance, all the extra things that needed to care for him. And the other vision that was placed on my heart was the farm, and to turn it into a retreat for women like me walking that. So that's another reason why I'm down here. I'm meeting my niece, and she's going to meet me up at the farm, and we're going to work on that. And I meant to say back earlier, one of the things that I kept saying in my support group was, it's okay when somebody would vent. It's okay. We walk this together. And I realized, I kept saying that over and over, we walk this together. And years ago, this wonderful lady, Jessica, wrote this book, and she included me in her book. And during the time where we all had to come and people were meeting the people behind the stories, and it came time for my turn to speak. After listening to everybody that was ahead of me, I was like, oh yeah, I've been through that one, the domestic violence. I mean, it went through all of these different things that people went through in their life that they had survived. And I kept going, oh my gosh, I feel like a filing cabinet for all of this. But I realized that it connected me with empathy. When you walk a path that somebody else is either walking or has walked before, you connect with them at a level that's just surreal. The Me Too kind of a thing. And so I knew there was other women out there like that. And I would always say, oh yeah, we walk this together, and I won't leave you behind.
And that's the name of your...
We Walk This Together is our nonprofit. Yeah. And we have our website, which is wewalkthistogether.org. And
.org.
.org. And I have a board of directors. Sunny Raff leads it. And we're actually doing our first gala. We're going to be planning it for next spring in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So our vision is to provide opportunities for women. When you connect with somebody on that level, creating that platform was just one step, but I wanted on social media, but wanting to create the platform where they could meet together as well.
And they're a retreat center. So last week I mentioned you on my show. So anybody that listens regularly, hear Carlene's name, because she was very instrumental in getting me out of a comfort zone. I was perfectly content in my beautiful little home that I love so very much, and ended up moving out and putting everything upstairs in storage here, and
right,
and going on a 6 weeks trek, and that getting robbed at gunpoint. All of those things happened, and but that trek was planned. And then I was coming back to East Texas to help you build a retreat center. You enrolled me in that idea, and I acted on it. And obviously it wasn't what I was supposed to do, but it got me in action to do something different. And I ended up moving upstairs with my ex-husband. And it was good. It was good because I was able to help him and ultimately bought the house back from him. And so it's good, right? And now you're getting to visit it.
I know. It's like a full circle. We've been wanting to do this. After Pat died, I had a lot of complications with my health. I had been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, mixed connective tissue disease, mixed spasmodic dysphonia that affected my voice. And seeing doctors and all of this for probably 15 years. And, but I was getting sicker and sicker. I had opened up a restaurant. The stress was unreal.
You moved up to
when I moved up to Northern California after he passed, correct. And I realized, even though I thought I was doing everything right, mentally, my body had another story. My body's like, yeah, you're not really handling this like you think you are. I started having seizures and body jerks, myoclonic jerks, and all of that. And so I was like, I'm going to heal. I'm going to heal. I saw the vision.
Yeah. And so you have a knowing. And so this is about your fourth time we scheduled you for a show because your voice was not available.
Right.
And we wanted you to actually.
And I was jerking around and all this. I mean, a year ago, I had to use a wheelchair once. I'm remarried. My childhood friend, Robert, from my hometown, which brought me back out there to California. And he had to wheel me out, go get a wheelchair and wheel me out of a meeting that I had to do because I physically couldn't even walk. I was having such bad body jerks. And, but I wanted to heal. So I did it with intent. I did it with absolute purpose. Mindful healing is what I called it. Going from a cane for a year and a half and even having to use a wheelchair, and last week walking 4 miles a day. So it's been wonderful. I did a lot of meditation, a lot of nature, a lot of removing toxic things in my life that were people that they say, can drain you. My mother passing freed me up from having to have forced relationships with certain family members that were causing harm. But yeah, I was determined to heal, and I did.
So, but nature, mindset. See, I'm a mindset coach, right? Mindset is everything. You want to go on if you want to lose weight, if your mindset and your mouth aren't in a tune, it doesn't work. And
Absolutely.
You certainly can. In fact, I saw a picture the other day from when I was out at your place and we had swum in the tub.
Oh, yes. I came up on memories. My cowboy tub, which is a metal trough.
Yeah. And we were swimming or soaking in there and having fun. But I think I lost some weight since then.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't do anything other than I do believe we have the power to do so much more than we think we can or we're taught to.
Absolutely.
So I said about 3 years ago, I think it was, I'm like, I'd like to get down to this number of weight. And I didn't really change much of anything. But this year, I'm like, some of these clothes don't fit or too big. This is interesting.
Right? Mindful healing.
But speaking this is my whole thing. Speak what you want, not what you don't want.
I say that all the time. Childhood friend of mine, Jody, there was a need in my new little town where we could talk without being cut off of our local leaders. That makes sense to get some changes. In Red Bluff, it's ranked 4th worst in crime in the whole state of California per capita. And it was just a quaint little town, Victorian little town when growing up, just beautiful little town. And when I'm creating something and I see a vision, and if there's somebody that wants to point out, and people will say, oh, well, the devil's advocate, let me just da-da-da-da. I'm like, okay, but what about this? What if this happens? Well, what if this happens? Well, what if this happens? I'm like, if we're going to talk about what ifs, let's talk about what if this happens? Wouldn't this be exciting?
What can happen instead of what?
Yeah. And I said, we were walking and I had to stop her and I said, listen, I have to tell you, if you're going to work with me, this is how it works. I focus on what I want, not on things I don't want. When you focus on what you don't want, you're going to get more of that. If you focus, what you focus on is what you're going to get.
Split-second transformation. Change your words, change your life. 31 daily practices. It works.
Yes. And so even with people being with me, I'm like, if you're going to work with me on, it's called Let's Talk or Buff, and we're going to do a little talk show on it. I said, if you're going to work with me on this, I need that kind of energy just for us to speak about the things we want so we can draw more of that to us. And my husband, Robert, when we got together, I'm like, okay, I'm on a healing journey and I'm going to be selfish on it. I'm going to be selfish on my healing journey. I have to focus on the good energy around me so I can draw more of that. And I cannot have anything and any sort of negative because I was not at the strength to absorb somebody's negative energy, even though he's not negative on that.
No.
But I just wanted to make sure he was on the same
page. Yes.
Same page as me to walk that path with me. And he did. He did a great job. And
it was fast.
Well, it was a year and a half.
Yeah. But I mean, I wanted you on my show 2 or 3 times, even earlier this year.
Yeah.
You still had to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so.
Yeah. After my mother passed, I was doing really good from October to January. And then when my mother passed in January, some drama came out with a family member and it was unhealthy. And I started having episodes again. And I just went, no. My health is more important than somebody's negative energy. And
hello.
Right?
Right.
And so I'm no good to anybody if I allow that in my life. And so I just don't. And when somebody does approach me with that kind of energy, I'm just like, I love you. Yeah, I love you. And when you're ready to be authentic in your life, I'm there for you. But
so we all carry an energy, and it's not woo-woo, it's science. They can look and take pictures of your aura, and your energy, certainly in your brain, and literally negative thoughts causing your brain gets darker and
it's awful.
Yeah,
I would do this thing, and you experienced it with the chicken when
this story is. I witnessed, and I knew she has this gifting, and she calls it her knowing. And I believe it's just the spirit in her that she's attuned to in a lot of ways.
So we all have that ability.
We all have it. And we've been, in fact, not taught about it. We've been cut off from it intentionally, I think, in a lot of our systems that are out here. Especially United States, right? So,
but not just that too. I find that a lot of people want to label and study it and define it as, oh, you are this, or you're this, or you're that, or and every being in my body, every ounce of me. And I remember when you had a friend that was a healer, and you were like, oh, you should meet her, and I was like, and not because of, but because remember I had a sense of falseness about her, and it turned out to be true. That one particular person. But I just know, for me, as long as I'm authentic and I am transparent in that authenticity, I'm just provided with the knowing. And so like the chicken story, I'll share that and you can kind of add to it.
Absolutely. So, we have pictures.
Yeah, she videoed and took pictures of it. So I met a mutual friend. He has since passed. I don't want to say his name because I don't know if I can, but he has since passed. And
sweet friend.
Yes. And he had identified in his world who I was and was like, oh, you can do these gifts, these gifts, these gifts. It's like they're unlimited. And the first time I did it, my little dog had got hurt and jumped off the bed, and I just instinctively touched her hip. And the way I can explain it is I just push all my energy out. It's like a physical feeling. And so much so, and my hands were on her, then my hands kept sweating and sweating and sweating. And she was fine within seconds. but my hands kept sweating over and over and over again. And I had to reach out to this particular friend of ours and like, I had never done this. What's going on? My hands won't stop sweating. It's been a couple hours now. And he's like, the other side's waiting for acknowledgement. The moment you acknowledge this, it's going to gone. And I'm like, oh. And it was true. The moment I acknowledged it, it stopped.
You said, thank you for your help.
I was like, well, what actually happened, that whatever the energy that I had was able to be transformed or transferred over to my little dog at the time. And that's it. As long as I acknowledge that actually happened and not just, okay, was this real? Because when it first happens, like, is this real? Did this really just happen?
It was just a coincidence.
Yeah, right. And then I'm way better at it now. But then I would say about a year later, you were visiting, and I had this dog, a rescue dog, that would take my chickens and bury them alive. And Marley was my little crested Polish that we just loved to death.
I'm glad I couldn't remember.
Marley, she had like a little rocker hair, feathered hair. And we had come home and Marley was missing. And I'm like, oh no, Willie has buried her somewhere. And we looked all over the property. And the grass was tall because the flowers were coming in. The wildflowers were all in. So it was really tall. So we looked and looked and looked, and we could not find her. So we went to bed, and there was a huge storm that night too. Huge storm. And the next morning we were sitting on the porch, and I remembered one time my late husband had lost his book, and this little planner book, and he had told me about it. And I just closed my eyes and visualized it. And there it was in the trunk of my car. He drove like 4 months ago. Yeah. So I just went right to the car and I've done that with keys, opened the door and like, there they are, you know? And so I was sitting with you on the porch and I was like, I know where she's at. And I got up and I walked straight towards her and I looked down.
This is a silly detail. It doesn't matter in the story, but I feel like you're like, I've got to go find her. And you turned that way.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you stopped and no, it's that way. So you went to the corner of
the house. Yeah. Of the property. And when you looked down at the ground, you could not tell at all. It wasn't like a dug up spot or anything like that. And on top of that, there was moles, groundhog. Yeah. Moles everywhere too. But, and then after the storm and everything, and I looked down and I just started digging and pulled her out. And she had been there for 24 hours.
Buried alive. Well, not alive. She was in a coma.
She thinks I brought her back from the dead, but she was in a coma. And so I'm like, oh, and I was just so intense. I'm like, I'm going to do this. And I did it. I put my hands on her and you were taking pictures. And I did that thing where I just pushed all of that energy out that I had. And she stood up.
She stood up and, you had a towel there and you wrapped her up and we put her in the house. She got to visit with us in the house for a couple of days. She was ragged. I mean,
yeah,
muddy and lots of hair, feathers missing.
Yeah.
And had blood. I mean, had she been bitten or just buried?
She had just been buried. But I think she might have had a superficial injury.
Well,
but
her feathers were out. Anyway, it was I'm watching this energy just flowing out of Carlene. You're sitting on the porch, and next thing we know, we've got a chicken.
We have Marley bouncing around.
Yeah, I was back. I'm so glad I remember the name because I loved it.
I named them all. I had over 70. I've got Marley, Ozzy. Oh, I had so many.
So fun chickens.
Yep. So that was an experience. But so just like with the foundation or anything else that I do, I get these wonderful visions. And I remember after Patrick had passed and I had bought the restaurant, then sold the restaurant, and I was not able to walk. I wasn't able to talk. I was super sick. And I'm like, and I wasn't seeing anything. And then I realized, it's because you're looking at your sickness.
Ta-da. Oh, I said that just if you get something and it's diagnosed, and I said this in 3 talks last week and 2 weeks, you get diagnosed with something, but you don't claim it. You might have it.
But I was claiming it. That was the issue.
So you shift and quit claiming and you do what you got to do, but you see yourself healed. You see the vision of what you want. If you get, this is just this dis-ease is just it's just something out there, but it's not who you are.
Right. And you're
what you want, not what you
don't want. And I found myself saying things that I didn't want. And I was like, oh, what are you doing?
Cancel.
And so I'm like, okay, this isn't one of those things where I have to change my perspective because I cannot change my circumstances. This is one of those, I can change my circumstances. And I did that. And San Francisco last month, in August, I have no traces
of any of those
autoimmune diseases. None. Almost to where it made me feel nuts at first. Like, while I'm here, I'm actually going to get my medical records from my doctors because it almost makes you feel like, oh gosh, were all these doctors wrong for 18 years? I know they were not, but to have a doctor look at you, a rheumatologist, and be like, why are you here? I'm like, for you to tell me that I don't need to be here. And everyone's going, where are you going down there for? I said, to get confirmation that I'm healed through their perspective, through their eyes too. And
then you have a story with an ending, right? It's like you've got this happen and the story, I lived it.
Yeah, I'm still blown away by it because to have a doctor tell you have no traces, even Hashimoto's, it doesn't go away. You have no traces. And my doctor had told me my thyroid, which is what it would attack, normally after 20 years of having something like that, it's trashed. Not at all. Not only, I had some nodules on my parathyroid just disappeared, just completely gone.
And so I've said this many times, and some of the people that have been healed, if God can create it, he can heal it. If it is created by the creator, then why can't he heal it? I mean, if he can create it, are you kidding? I watched a heartbeat and an ultrasound of my first guest when I started my show. My first actual guest was Michael Parker and Gail, because we found out later it was less than 1% chance of being alive that next morning. But I was watching the heartbeat, and I wouldn't let him speak death at all. Right. I was like, but I watched it and I was like, if God can create that heartbeat, it was on the ultrasound. I was the only one in there besides him. I was like, he can heal it. And I live that way. My belief is I don't believe in getting sick. So I don't get sick. I don't attract that. It's not arrogance. Jesus said we can do what he did and even more, which I was never taught growing up. I don't think that verse was mentioned very often, because John 14:12, if you want to look it up. If we can do what Jesus did and even more, and this isn't religion at all.
Yeah.
But he gave us the authority to do what he did and even more. And so why are we so powerless?
Well, I think it comes back to being, again, when you are 100% authentic and transparent and like, yes, this is what I did. Yes, this is how I felt. Yes, you receive the answers that you need. It's when we're not authentic. It's like the negative energy it's not going to come to us. And, but again, being faced with a disease like what Patrick had, that there is no explanation. There is no cure.
But God,
but there is always a beautiful message in it all, no matter how painful that was to walk. It was the hardest walk I've ever done, was to walk Patrick home.
It was hard.
It was very hard. The disease with a younger person like that, they're strong, they're healthy, everything but their mind. And the violence, the things that these women go through with this disease is just unreal. And so when you were faced with a disease like that's one of the ones that he can change my perspective And it changes your circumstances. When you cannot change your circumstances, change your perspective, and then it does change your circumstance.
Right. Things show up. So I just don't attract, something was said, and I just don't attract the bad, the evil. I'm outrageously optimistic that things are get as bad as it looks out there. I'm not naive. I mean, it's not that I don't know. It's like, but I'm outrageously optimistic that in my life, me, Charla, I just don't attract the bad stuff. And it's kind of, I've got a resistance to it. Nobody can hurt your feelings or make you angry or get you upset without your permission. And so these people, this is one of the things that I was telling my grandkids at one time, may you be blessed. I'm not, just may you be blessed. That's a master is one who blesses. We don't have unconditional love, unconditional forgiveness, not unconditional boundaries. We do not have to surround ourselves with the negative. And when we're there, we can just kind of, I say often, everything is working out for me. Everything is always working out for me. And thank you, thank you, thank you. And I just walk in this stance of, I just don't attract the negative.
Right.
And there's so many people are attracted to our energy and want to be with us, even if they don't understand why.
Right. I remember we were talking about perspective and things that are negative and how we view it. I was at a conference once in my old world, and they had said, when you think of a glass ceiling, what do you think of when you think of a glass ceiling? And I'm like, oh, it's a window of opportunity. I'm like, oh, I just love it. I said, I can just see unlimited potential, because most ceilings to me are solid. So if I have a glass ceiling, that means I have a window that I can see so much opportunity and so much.
And everyone's like,
that's not what we think about. I'm like,
well, you get what you think about.
And I'm like, and I had not heard of the glass ceiling metaphor before. I had not heard that expression. So my thought was instant. A window.
And it's like what a gift that was to those ladies to have. That was a shift of perspective if they allowed it.
A glass ceiling to me is just a great big old window of all of this opportunity that we can reach. And windows can be open and windows can be broken. So it's there for me when I'm ready.
Exactly. So there are no limits. And there are no limits. We put them on ourselves,
right?
We put ourselves in these little boxes, but if you don't like where you are, you can't change that. Where you can't change this second. You can only change the next one, and you get to choose.
Right.
You get to choose what you're going to say or do. Don't like your circumstances right this second. Your next word or your next step should be towards what you want.
Right. What is Zig Ziglar? If I can't, what was it? Oh, I just lost me. I'll get it back. You've said it before.
You can do everything in life if you help enough people.
No,
he's got so
I'll get it again. It's one of my. Oh, if you don't like change, you'll like irrelevance a lot less. I think that was one of his.
I do not recall that.
Yeah, if you do not like change, it might not be his, but I believe it was. It was. But if you do not like change, you're going to like irrelevance a lot less. So I love change.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard that. That may not be Zig, but
it may not be.
Matter.
It may not be.
It's the truth,
right?
Regardless, who said it.
So moving forward, I'm actually a caregiver now for my brother-in-law, and we live with him. He can't live on his own, and it's nice creating my own little environment there. I've planted flowers, got my bird feeders going, got my garden going, got my little fish pond going. Love growing food, love cooking still, and definitely excited to get this property in Texas as a caregiver retreat. I have another property that I bought up by last son in Northern California, and in the woods, and it's so beautiful. And I would love for that to be a widowed retreat, because when something really cool. I was on my way with my mother to go look at properties because I was going to buy a property out there. And we were driving, and I'm just taking roads, not following my little directions. And we were headed to this one property, and I turned in a direction my map wasn't supposed to go, but apparently I was. And we pulled into this property. There was a sell sign. We pulled into this property, and I'm like, Mom, this isn't on my list. I'm like, this is where I need to be. And I kept feeling Patrick with me as we were turning the corners. And I get telling my mother, I was like, oh my God, I feel Patrick. I feel him. And we get to this property, and I'm like, this is it. I don't know how or why or where, but this is what I'm supposed to have. And there was a sell sign on it, but it was not listed anywhere. Got in touch with the people behind me. I've got a realtor up there. And it turned out the property had sold, but didn't go through because that Friday before I came up, this was on a Monday, the deal had fallen through. And it gets even beautiful. It was my first piece of property to buy, recently widowed at that time. And the lady I bought it from was widowed. That was her, and she's remarried. It was her first piece of property she bought widowed, who bought it from somebody widowed. And it turned out the history of this property since 1956, the only people who had ever owned it was widowed people. And before I knew that, I had already told my mom and the other lady, I'm like, the neighbor behind me said, I think it's sold. Let me check with my friend. I said, no, it didn't. This is mine. I'm supposed to be here. This is going to be a widowed retreat. Didn't know the story behind it. Didn't know anything behind it. And I just felt it. And so that's our next project. I bought it. It's been 3 years. So that one will be a widowed retreat. But the ladies in my support group want to do the same thing. They want to open up their homes, the ones that are on the widowed side now, and allow
healing.
Correct. Allow women to
book, mostly who's lost their husband,
or so they're currently walking their.
Yeah.
Oh, for that one, yes, that one's the widowed one. So, like I was saying earlier, when after losing him, I felt like I just needed a place just to veg, and that's what that place was. It was beautiful. It's in the woods. I have my own little woods by Lake Macomber. It's just beautiful. And
so, what do you collect?
What do you mean? Oh, heart rocks.
Heart-shaped rocks.
I probably have about 2,000 of them now. I can't help but not see them anymore. I have to actually, when I'm walking to, I'm like, don't pick it up. Don't touch it. Sometimes I'll pick up a bunch of them and then I'll put them in piles so people can get them and see them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where I'm going. I'm going to see a heart rock. And I had asking for signs. Remember the ladybug signs? First time it happened. I was reading this book called The Light Between Us, and I read it in one day because I was like, oh my, Laura Lee Jackson or Jones. Laura Lee something, The Light Between Us. And I'd never read a book about anything like this, but I was drawn to read this book, and I read it in one night, and everything she was saying, I'm like, there's 13 certified psychics, as they would say, in the United States, and she's one of the 13. And everything she was saying, I was like, I could relate to. I'm like, yes.
You're just not certified.
I don't go that route. But I'm losing my train of thought. Sorry.
No, the ladybugs.
Oh, yes. So asking for signs. But that one went there was the heart rocks. I would find a few and stuff. And I told my mom as she was crossing, show me all the heart rocks, Mom. And now I've found at least, like I said, close to 2,000 since January.
Oh, wow.
And they're all over the place, all over our property. But the first time Laura Lee, that book showed me, you can ask for a sign that you're getting this right. So
if I'm not mistaken, you were in your beautiful clawfoot bathtub or whatever.
Yes.
You were reading.
I had just finished reading it the night before.
And we were on the phone.
Well, because Patrick was still alive and he was in the living room and we were getting ready for a drive. It was like 7:00 in the morning and we're going to go drive a back road. And I had a vision. I kept saying, okay, I want to try this like with purpose, because I would just have things come to me without explanation. And I would go to complete strangers. I'm like, does this make sense to you? And because sometimes I couldn't eat dinner, I couldn't do anything until, like if I was at a restaurant, I couldn't do anything without having that conversation because it wouldn't leave me. And it made sense to all of them, whoever I would speak to. I'd be in a bathroom for an hour and a half at dinner with some stranger. And so
That sounds weird.
right. Well, because we were crying and it was a lady in the bathroom, that would happen a lot. And so this book had taught, well, you can ask for it. You can control it. I'm like, you can ask for signs. So I had this thing where I saw, okay, I'm going to try this. And I'm hollering, I'm in the bathtub, and I'm hollering to Patrick. Does a horse in a field make sense? Old Yeller, a horse, a field, old Yeller. And then I would describe a trucker hat. You and Todd. I said, did your grandpa wear a trucker hat? He's like, no. Now, mind you, my late husband was struggling with dementia because of the Alzheimer's. And nothing was correlating, but I kept getting Todd, his cousin, in my head too. And I'm like, oh, I could ask for a sign. So I'm like, okay, show me ladybugs in December. Show me ladybugs.
December. Yeah.
Show me ladybugs in December. And so I kept getting Todd too. And I'm like going, no, I don't want this for Todd. I want this for Patrick. Because it was important for me to have him believe that this can happen, even though he would see it all the time in my life. He would just say, you're lucky. You're intuitive. You're just lucky. And I'm like, how do you get so specific though? And so I called Jane, Todd's wife, and said, I left a message, it's 7 a.m. They were sleeping. Does this make sense to Todd? I don't know. So we go for our drive. We come back. No ladybugs. I'm taking off my boot. Well, there's one ladybug. As I was taking off my boot on the porch, and I'm like, okay, I know I have it right now. And so Patrick was going to go and to this funeral. And I don't go to funerals. He was going to go to this funeral of somebody that was in his family friend. And I want to say his name was Lee. And he goes, and in the meantime, I call her because I'm so excited that a ladybug was on the porch. One ladybug, after driving around for an hour and a half, didn't see one. And one was on the porch when I get back and take my boot off. So I'm all excited and I'm telling her the whole story. Well, Pat comes in and he had just got back from the funeral and he has this funeral,
the brochure.
The brochure thing. Yeah. So I'm on the phone with her and I'm doing dishes and I take it. He's talking to me. And in the meantime, he's telling me, they even had his horse there. And I look at the picture and it's this man in a cowboy hat. And I'm like, that's not him. But then he says, the horse, Old Yeller. And I was calling it Old Yeller, something like that. And I'm like, what? And she's on the phone with me. And I'd already told her all of this story. And I'm like, give me that. And I open it. And there's the brown trucker hat. There's the face I saw. And I'm like, Patrick, Old Yeller, a horse, a field, the trucker hat, you and Todd. And I'm like, was he with your grandpa? And he goes, oh yeah, well, we used to ride horses when we were little together in this field with him. All the things I saw. So I'm freaking out. Of course, he's ignoring me because that's just who he's like, okay. One of her weird stuff. So he goes up to meet a man for the road and I'm on the phone still with her and I'm so excited. And I'm telling her about it. And then I'm walking in the bedroom to pull up the mini blinds. And I'm like, there's another ladybug on the window. And then and as I'm pulling up, I got another one. And I opened it. And the whole window, just where I slept on my side of the bed, was just covered in ladybugs. We're probably like 1,000 of them. It was unfreaking.
And it gives me chills because I was witnessing this.
Right? Yeah. I'm all showing. I'm on phone with her with the face. I'm showing her, but I'm also having to take pictures with my other camera because I'm on the phone. So I can't take pictures with that phone. So I go outside and the whole wall is just covered with it. And it was my first experience like that. Unreal that you can ask for a sign that you're in the right thing. Now my signs are a lot more simpler. I get chills.
Yeah, I get goosebumps.
I would get those, but now I acknowledge that that's what that is when I'm on the right.
It's knowing and your knower. And you mentioned a while ago something, and one of the first ones I think that you acknowledged was we had a friend, mutual friend, and
Dan.
you said no, another mutual friend that had, you mentioned a name. Does this name mean anything to you? And it was a really weird name, not a Shaniqua.
Wait, Sharicia.
Or something.
Wait.
Shaniqua.
No.
It doesn't matter.
That was with Janice Ballard.
Oh yeah.
Janice Ballard, hi Janice.
Mm-hmm.
I barely knew Janice. I had just met her at a party and she was drawn to come and talk with me. And I was living in Grapevine at the time. And, what was that name? Sharicia?
Something really strange. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter, but it wasn't Debbie.
And I was talking to her and I said, does this mean anything to you? Just as this crazy name. It is when I was boldly just doing it now. And she just looks at me and I'm like, okay, hold that thought. There's no way I would know that name, right? She's like, no. And then tears started coming down her. I'm like, okay, here, but it's always it's always the same message. Doesn't matter who I'm talking to. It's so cool. You can confirm that there's no way I would know this. Absolutely. And I would say, I'm not a psychic at all. And I said, and I would say, what you're feeling is accurate. And you've been praying and asking for signs. And I'm like, you're Jeff Foxworthy. Here's your sign. And that's kind of what happened. What she was thinking and feeling was absolutely correct about this particular person. And, but the whole message is this. Listen to your spirit. To the other side. They'll tell you. And, I'm just giving you a confirmation of it. That's all. And so, it's always the same. You have the same ability and you just needed some encouragement and to show that you're on the right path. So that's what that is.
Yeah. And I've seen it too many times with you and with certainly even with me, with others. I'm like, when we choose to listen, be still and know, listen a few minutes, just turn off your devices for a second and get grounded, start listening to that still small voice inside of you. It's the God in you, the breath of life in you, the I am in you.
Right. So that was interesting. We've done a lot of, I've done a lot of meditation, a lot of grounding. Didn't know what grounding was. It just felt really good to go outside and take my shoes off and put them in the ground when the sun was rising. And I called it recharging. And then people would always put labels on it. Oh, that's what you're doing. It's called grounding. It's like, oh, okay. I hate labels. I'm not a fan of labels at all.
And when once that you get a label, if you get it in the system as a label, you're going to be that forever, no matter what. So, yeah. And as far as the systems are out there wanting to keep us
in that box.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's put you in a box and label. You know what I found out recently? I found out that if you label a child early enough, and I'm just going to speak from California because that's the only place that I know about right now, but I'm sure it's everywhere. You get paid as a parent every time your child has another label added to them. Oh, they're ADHD. Oh, they have this, they have this, they have that. They actually send you a check and pay you
to disable your child.
Exactly. Yes, the money's to be used to help them and whatnot, but I mean, it blew me away. No wonder there's so many kids with so many labels. And first,
mental illness. Mental illness is so high and people are so anxious all the time. And so I got my anxiety and all that.
Yeah, I've never seen a generation that can't stand labels, that wants to label everything. Don't label me. But yet I'm this, and this, and you better recognize that. And I'll be offended.
I'm going to be offended if you don't.
If you don't.
Even if you don't know I have that.
Correct. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of me.
Nobody can offend you without your permission. So just it's not all about you.
Right?
Stop it.
Quit labeling yourself.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
So what do you want to say? We got just a couple more minutes and I'm so happy to have you back in my
you.
presence and space.
I'm glad to be back. Thank you.
It's not been a lot of times over the years, but it's been impactful times every time. And so you're getting to be a guest with me, and I spent a few days
Thank you. Beautiful house. Oh, she's done such a fabulous job. She's got an Airbnb here in case you didn't know it. She's even, look at this, y'all. I'm drinking the mushroom.
I've been drinking the mushroom memory enhancing coffee.
Right.
She's drinking that.
I'm drinking that this morning.
Drinking my Zeal, let me just tell you, and I've already taken my Zenzino. So we got some things that physically just natural, amazing things that I would love to reach out, Charla at charlaanderson.com. And we can find what works best.
Yeah. And we'll be getting our website updated, the wewalkthistogether.org, and updating once we get our committee done and our gala stuff out there. I'm excited for that, where we can raise some funds. Women can be able to leave their significant other and care with someone and come and have a retreat.
And really at no cost to them is when you're
zero cost.
They get to have a freedom vacation. That property is lovely, and that's a nice, sweet town. And
we'll do an Airbnb during profitable days. So I'm going to be booking it out because it has to be self-sustaining. And so it doesn't always work for women to be able to take the weekend to come because it's harder for the family member to come and care for their loved one. It's easier for them to leave with a paid caregiver on the weekdays. Weekends are just hard to get caregivers. I said that reverse, sorry. But we're excited about that. They'll be able to come out and just be. No agenda.
Just be. No, I say that just be. Right? Just be. So, and it'll just be peaceful for them to get away. And so people find you on Facebook primarily. Right now, your email is jacked up, and so
my email. I've had 3 email accounts get hijacked. I don't understand how. The one I just opened up, they shut it down immediately and said illegal stuff is happening, but they won't tell me what's illegal, and I've never even done anything on it yet.
You hadn't even responded.
No, it's just crazy.
Anyway, so Facebook.com/
Carlene McCaughey. It's
actually it's Carlene.altum on your, if you're going to find it officially. But you might as well spell
McCaughey.
McCaughey. So I saw it as laugh with a hey at the end. So
there you go.
Only without the L. Anyway, we've had a great time. Thank you so much for being my guest, and it finally coming together, and you flying in a day earlier than you were going to, so that you could do this live in person and with skin on.
Right.
So much.
Love you.
Love you too. And thank you so much for listening and having fun with us today. And hope you learned a lot. Don't forget that you are perfect exactly who and where you are, no matter where that is. You can't do one thing to make God love you more or less. So just learn to love yourself enough to receive that. And remember to always, 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 always choose a joy.
Parting is such sweet sorrow. The Charla Anderson Show. Encouraging you to stand strong and courageous with bold faith, no fear, immense hope, kindness, and love, especially towards yourself. Visit charlaanderson.com for replays, blogs, and more on her ever-expanding website, as well as watch her live TV show on winwinwomen.tv, Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And so that we can continue learning together and growing this community of beautiful souls, we invite you to share the Charla Anderson Show with your circle of friends. Until we meet again next week, remember always, choose joy.